Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this case we'll be going into motion tracking. Specifically I've made a hollow emitter or hologram object which we will place in the palm of my hand. Of course everything you need to make this tutorial is available for free. And you can buy the full project file for $2 on Gumroad. If you want to shoot your own footage, then please feel free to do so. If you learned something and if you like this video, then please leave a like and subscribe and click on the bell icon for further notifications on future videos that I make. And if you decide to make this yourself, then please send it to me on Instagram. It's super awesome to see whatever you guys make. So this will be my last tutorial for this year. I wish you all the best wishes for 2021 and I will see you in another new video next year. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we are back in a fresh Blender scene. And because this tutorial is all about the motion tracking, I've gone ahead and fast forwarded all the modeling. I'm just going to talk over it a little bit. And I started off by creating a cylinder and scaling that in on the top part there. Now I wanted to add in a mirror modifier. So to be able to do that, I deleted half of my model here, added in the mirror modifier, making my life a bit easier. And gone ahead and selected some of the faces here, alternating, hit E to extrude, canceled out of that, and hit Alt S to scale them outward. Yeah, and I move these lines down. All of this just to make it look visually appealing. There's no real objective here. I'm just looking for a shape that I like. And if you really want to see all the things that I did, especially for the material part and the animation part, this model will be available for free in the link in the description. So you can download it and use it in your own motion track animation or any other project. Just feel free to use it anyways. Now in this case, I select all the other faces as well. Hit I to inset it, E to extrude inward, then inset it again, E to extrude outward with Alt S. Just repeating this a couple of times, creating something visually appealing here. Now I'm selecting some of the faces here because I want to add in some lights there. So I to inset again, E and Alt S to extrude inward. Adding in two materials here, one for the emission and one for the metal. Changing the colors really quick just to be able to see what I'm doing. Now for the top part there, I want to inset it, hit B for the border option there, and then E to extrude downward, repeating that a couple of times, extruding this one all the way down and adding in the emission shaded there as well. Now selecting some of these faces on the side of the extrudes there, insetting those with I again, E and Alt S to extrude inward. Now I'm adding in the lid here, which will open up and close. So added it in here, give it a new color with a new material as well. Now we want to animate this one with shape keys here. So I've added in a new cylinder and I'm going to boolean it out of the base shape there. So adding in a boolean there, selecting the new small cylinder, applying the boolean modifier and this giving us a hole in our lid. Now I've added two shape keys there, and this will allow us to animate the opening and closing of our lid with the shape key. Super easy. So I'm just gonna keyframe that now. Add one on 30 for 0 and one on 45 for 1. Changing the interpolation type to back. Moving it down the timeline a bit. Changing the FPS there to match my footage. Turning on ambient occlusion, bloom, screen space reflections, motion blur, the filmic look on medium high contrast there. And now let's go work on some of the materials here. First of all, the metal, super simple. Just turn it up to gray, crank up the value for metallic to 1, adding in a color ramp with 2 noise textures, and tweaking some parameters, mainly detail, roughness, and scale. changing the colors to a dark gray and a light gray. And I want to add in the mapping texture coordinates node, which I did with Control T. And if that doesn't work for you, then make sure the Node Wrangler add-on is enabled. Duplicating the color ramp with just black and white values and plugging it into the roughness as well. Renaming my materials here. Now for the emission, I removed the principled BSDF and replaced it with an emission shader with the orange color there. Now I plugged in a color ramp with a wave texture and set the color ramp to linear, black and orange values here. Changed the texture coordinate from generated to UV. Now, because not all phases were working properly, I just UV unwrapped my model really quick. Just one click of a button, U, and then Smart UV Project. And change some parameters there as well, mainly increasing the wave texture scale. Now changing the strength to 4 here. It's looking good. Now I've decided to add in the orb, scaling that up just to plain UV sphere, scaling it up, calling it hollow orb, adding in a new material for that one as well. And for the lid, I've just chosen a dark gray color, metallic value up to 1, color ramp with a wave texture again, plug it into a bump node, which is plugged into the normal, and increasing the scale here as well, just adding some lines, making it look visually appealing. Turn down the strength of the bump a bit. Now for the orb, I wanted it to be see-through, so I turned on the alpha blend mode there and switched off show back face. Now I plugged in a color ramp with 2 Voronoi textures into the emission there. Changed the value on the white one to orange and changed the value to 3, making it stronger. Now changing some of the Voronoi here, I've set it to Chebyshev for both of these, giving me the square look. And I want to make sure the color ramp is also plugged into the alpha here. So plug it in into the alpha, and now tweaking some of the parameters here until I get a look that's what I like. And I kind of like this one. Some bigger shapes, some smaller shapes, some more intense, some lighter. Now I want to animate the texture here. So with the animation window open, I'm going to the mapping node for the Voronoi texture, and I'm going to animate the Z rotation from 0 to 90, making sure the interpolation type is set to linear for some constant motion there. Now I also want to animate the light on the hollow emitter starting up. So just made a simple animation from 0 to 4 in the strength there. And I also want to scale the orb coming out just like a hologram. So on a certain keyframe, I scaled the orb from 0 to its original size, adding in a interpolation type of back, giving us the bouncy look. And finally, I made sure to save it on a location, calling it hollow emitter. Now I've opened up a new scene again, and I just want to delete everything in this one, and I'm going to change from 3D viewport to movie clip editor here. And I want to open up our clip. And the clip will be available for free as a download as well. But of course, feel free to shoot your own clip. Just make sure that you add enough tracker dots on your hand. In my case, I added 9. You need at least 8 for it to work properly. So let's open up the clip here. Well, this is my clip. As you can see, I have 9 dots in here, and I put them in a sort of circular shape so my object can actually cover it. Now I want to set the scene frames here. So my scene has the length of my clip. And I want to hit prefetch to make things run smoother. And after that's done, it should play back nicely. Now you can tell it's a bit jittery, and that's because the FPS doesn't match my footage. So I'm going to change the FPS from 24 here to 30. Okay, and now it's playing back smoothly. As you can tell, it's looking nice. Okay, so going back to the first frame here, and I'm going to change some parameters. I want to make sure normalize is checked on. And I want to set the match to previous frame there. And I want to add in trackers. So click on add and then click anywhere on your footage. In my case, I click the dots on my hand. And I want to make sure I scale these out enough, not too much because it will be too big, but just enough so the trackers can actually follow. And with that done, you can select all of them with A. Then we can open up the track menu here and hit track markers or Control T. And this should start playing your footage with the trackers following your dots. And let's play this back real time and see how it's looking. And it's looking pretty good. The trackers are following the dots nicely. They seem to be sticking on and it's looking smooth. So I'm happy with that. And now I want to go into the Solve tab here. And first of all, I want to change the keyframe A and keyframe B. And they should be somewhere in between the range of our footage. I'm going to leave A on 5 there and change B to 280. The refine type can be nothing, and we'll just hit solve camera motion and see what happens. All right, so we have a reprojection error of 1.19 pixels, which is not bad, but it can be better. We need to get as close to 0 as possible. So I'm changing the keyframe A there to 1. And this actually increased the reprojection error, so that's not good. Now I'm going to change B to 145. And this gives us a reprojection error of 0.76, which is really good. I'm happy with that. So anything below 1 is usually fine. I'm setting my entire animation to 290. Just doing it once more and checking for a 0.76. Yeah, so that's good. Nothing we need to change there. Now, to add in our object here, I'm going to open up a new window here and set that to the 3D viewport. And I'm going to click Setup Tracking Scene. And this will automatically add in a camera, cube, floor, and light. And we can delete the floor and light immediately. And let's just hit play and see how it looks. Now, as you can tell, the cube is sort of moving where it should, but it's just not looking right just yet. And that's because we haven't set the floor nor the origin. So let's do that now. And we need to do that by selecting 3 markers. So I select these 3 in my case. And I'm going to hit floor in the orientation there. Now I'm going to scale down the cube because it's really big. And that's looking pretty good. I think it's lining up nicely with my hand. And now I want to select the middle marker on my hand. And I'm going to click Set Origin here. So the origin is actually in the middle of my hand. And I'm playing this back now. It's looking pretty good. I'm actually quite happy with this. And it's good enough for me to go ahead and delete the cube now and add in our hollow emitter object that we just created. Or that in your case you just downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead now, delete the cube. And I'm going to go to File and then Link. And I want to look up my hollow emitter object here. And then click the link. And I want to choose the collection in this case because I want the animation and the materials to be linked as well. So clicking the link there and it just got added to the origin there. Now, as you can see, it's still too big. So I'm going to hit S to scale this down till it fits my palm and also covers all of the markers in my hand. And now let's just play this back in solid view here and see how it looks. All right, so the orientation looks fine. The object looks fine as well. You can't really see because it's in solid view now. So let's just switch to material preview. Yeah, that's looking really good actually. So I'm super happy with that. Now, if I go into render view, you'll notice 2 things. 1, the footage is gone, and 2, our object is turning black because we have no lighting in here. Now, to fix this, I'm going to change a few things. In the render properties first, I'm going to change the samples to 128, turn on ambient occlusion, turn on bloom, turn on screen space reflections and motion blur. Very important because my hand also has the motion blur in the video. I'm going to go into color management and change the look to medium high contrast. And also very important, I want to go into film and click on transparent. This will allow us to see our footage on the back there. And let's click on our camera in the outliner there and make sure that we set our opacity for our footage to 1 so it doesn't become see-through slightly. And now to light our object, I'm going to add in an HDRI. No other lighting than that is necessary in this case. So let's go to our world tab here on the side. Yeah. And let's click on the yellow icon and change it to an environment texture. Now it becomes pink because there's no HDRI loaded in. And I've got one here. I'll make the link available in the description as well, so you can download it for yourself. And that lights our object. Although the lighting is not coming from the right angle, because you can tell in my footage it's coming from the left below. So I'm going to change that really quick. So go into shading here and change it from object to world. And on our HDRI, hit Ctrl-T. Again, if this does not work for you, make sure you go into preferences, into add-ons, and you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. Now I'm going to just change the Z rotation here so it better matches my scene. Something like this is fine. I basically have 2 light sources here, one from one side, one from the other. But it's looking kind of white, and my lighting in my room is a bit more yellow. So I'm going to add in a hue saturation node here and change the hue. In my case, I can just pull it down to 0. Yeah, 0 is fine. And maybe increase the saturation ever so slightly, like a 1.1. All right, so that's better matching my scene now. Now, finally, I want to go into compositing and change some things in there as well. Just going to render an image really quick. Close this off. Now it should show in my compositing window. Yep, there it is. All right, so basically all we want to do is just add in 2 RGB curves on both the hollow emitter and on our footage, just to get the lighting to match a bit better. So I'm adding in a RGB curves node here. I'm going to duplicate it and add it on the bottom one as well. Now I'm going to change some things in here. Oh, okay. So I did that wrong. It should be on the top one. That wasn't the right one. So I'm going to copy the bottom one, move it up here, and plug it in with these 2. And now if I change this, it should change our image. And I want to make it a bit darker, usually going for a sort of wavy shape. Yeah, that's looking nice. And I'm going to do the same to our hollow emitter RGB curve. Just pulling this down, make it a bit darker, kind of like how it's looking now. That's all we need to do for the compositing. Now let's just make sure that we have everything set up correctly. So 128 in samples, ambient occlusion, bloom. We want screen space reflections on, motion blur on, color management set to medium high contrast, and transparent ticked on in film. Now for the render properties, I have everything set to full HD, just like my footage. The FPS matches my footage as well, which is 30 FPS in my case. It's very important to make sure it matches. Now I'm going to choose a save location for my video here. And I want to change the type from PNG to FFmpeg video. Go into encoding, make sure it's set to MP4 in the container there. And the output quality I want on perceptually lossless. And now we can just hit render animation, and that should bring us to the end result. So here it is, the motion tracked hollow emitter in the palm of my hand. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you did, then please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you decide to make this yourself, please share it with me on Instagram. It's super awesome to see the work that you guys make. If you want to support me some more or just see how I did it, please feel free to buy the project files on my Gumroad. Link will be in the description. And I hope to see you in the next one.